You know, that feeling when someone looks at you across a table and says something so calm and so final that the world just stops making sound. That is what happened to me 16 days before my wedding. The cafe was crowded, soft jazz, the smell of espresso. And Jason looked up from his untouched cappuccino and said 7 words that carved through me sharper than any scalpel I had ever held. "We need to talk." I sat down anyway, my palms already damp. He reached into his coat pocket and placed a small velvet box on the table. "Not to give it to me, to take something back. I cannot marry you, Emily, just like that." He leaned back in his chair as if the weight of honesty had finally set him free. "We are heading in different directions. I have made connections, important ones. Megan Langley and I were aligned in ways I did not see before." Megan Langley, daughter of Gregory Langley, the venture capitalist who practically owned half the West Coast's tech startups. "You are leaving me for her?" I asked. "This is better for both of us," he said. "You deserve someone simpler." He did not even flinch when I stared at him, trying to understand how the man I was supposed to marry in 16 days could erase me so cleanly. Then he added the ring. "It is a family heirloom. My grandmother would be devastated if it left the family." I slipped it off. My hands were shaking, but I did it. I placed it gently on the table and said, "Thank you for your honesty." Then I walked away, past the glass doors, past the couple sharing desserts, past the curious eyes. Only when I turned the corner did the tears finally come. What I did not know standing on that street was that Jason had not broken my life. He had redirected it. And what was waiting at the end of that detour was something I could not have planned, something I could not have imagined. And it started with a job nobody else would take. I did not go back to the apartment we shared. When I arrived, my things were already packed in labeled suitcases by the door. Clothing, books, toiletries, all carefully sorted, as if I were being returned to sender. My old studio lease had ended. I had given it away weeks ago. Every cent I had saved had gone to the wedding. I had less than $100 in my account and a full week until payday. That is when I did the thing I had not done in over a year. I called my foster mom. Margaret Temple answered on the 3rd ring, her voice warm and steady like it always was. An hour later, I was curled on her faded plaid couch, cradling a mug of peppermint tea while she smoothed my hair like she used to when I was 13 and broken from yet another placement gone bad. She did not ask questions. She just placed a thick knit blanket over my legs and said, "Stay as long as you need. You hear me, I have got space and you have got nothing to prove." 3 days passed, 3 slow aching days where I went through the motions on the hospital floor. I smiled when people asked about the wedding. I said it had been postponed. I said Jason had a business trip come up. I said I was fine. I said too much. But on the 3rd day, Rachel, our blunt charge nurse, peeked her head into room 8. "You still looking for a miracle escape from this place?" "What?" She lowered her voice. "You remember Lily from Neuro? She took a private care job a month ago. Live-in, high pay. She quit last week. Could not handle the guy." "What guy?" Rachel raised an eyebrow. "Some rich tech mogul. Paralyzed. Lives up in Cypress Hill in one of those houses that makes you question your entire life choices. Apparently he is a nightmare. Pays triple what we make here. Live in suite. Meals included. No roommates. No night shifts. Just one patient. Do you have a contact?" I asked. 10 minutes later, she handed me a small card. On it, in sharp, elegant cursive, Margaret Temple, estate manager, and beneath it a number. It took me until midnight to call. I stood in the back alley in my coat, breathing cold Montana air, phone shaking in my hand. Margaret Temple picked up on the 2nd ring. A pause, then, "Are you available for an interview tomorrow morning at 9? I said yes without hesitating. "Do not be late." The line went dead, and just like that I was heading somewhere completely new, with nothing but a battered duffel bag, a bleeding heart, and absolutely nothing left to lose. The house looked like a modern fortress. Glass, steel, sharp edges carved into a cliffside, as if someone had built a mansion out of sunlight and stone. Margaret Temple met me at the front door, a woman in her 60s, thin as wire, hair in a tight twist. She looked me up and down with the precision of someone who had spent years deciding who was worth trusting. The interview was swift. 4 questions, no smiles. The position is yours, Miss Carter. $12,000 per month plus performance bonus. Round-the-clock availability, no visitors, discretion is non-negotiable. Your patient is a complicated man. I tried not to react. I gripped the arms of the chair to keep from responding. It was more than triple what I made at the hospital. I said yes without hesitating. Margaret slid a folder across the table. Your patient is Mr. Ryan Hale. The name meant nothing to me then. It would soon mean everything. The next morning, I stood outside his door. Heart thudding. Margaret knocked twice and opened it without waiting for a response. The room was large. 2 large, vaulted ceilings, glass walls looking out over redwood trees, sunlight bleeding across pale hardwood floors. He was by the window in a sleek black wheelchair. Back to us. Mr. Hale, Margaret said. Your new nurse has arrived. Emily Carter. He did not turn right away, just sat there, fingers slowly tapping the armrest. Then finally he pivoted. And my breath caught. I do not know what I expected. An older man perhaps, someone frail, but Ryan Hale was young. Mid-30s, dark hair, sharp jawline, eyes like cut glass, and yet there was something exhausted about him. His skin was pale, his frame lean, but his expression was the thing that warned me. He looked at me like I was already disappointing him, so he said, voice low and biting, they sent me another one. I opened my mouth to speak, but he cut me off. What is the bet this time, Margaret? A week, 10 days. Margaret said nothing. She only said, I will leave you two to get acquainted, and left. Silence stretched. I am not here to place bets, I said finally, just to do my job. He rolled closer, examining me like a piece of art he did not particularly like. And what job do you think that is? Medication, physical therapy, monitoring vitals, supporting rehabilitation. He snorted. You forgot the part where you nod sympathetically while I fail to walk again. That is usually everyone's favorite part. I did not flinch. I am not here to pity you. He tilted his head slightly. Oh, that is new. Most of them crack by day 3. Maybe I will surprise you. Maybe, he said, though the smirk at the edge of his mouth made it clear he did not believe a word. We went through that first day in stiff silence. I administered medication, reviewed his physical therapy plan, took notes. Ryan kept making sharp comments, testing me, pushing, but I did not bite. I had worked with veterans who lost limbs, teenagers who screamed through every injection, mothers who wept through morphine highs. Ryan Hale was not going to scare me. That evening, as I prepped his room for the night, he said suddenly, You are not what I expected. I looked up from the drawer. No, you have not asked about the accident. I figured you would tell me if you wanted to. A pause. Another surprise. It was a ski trip, he said finally. Solo. I lost control on a ridge, woke up in a helicopter, have not stood unaided since. I nodded. Thank you for telling me. He stared at me for a long time. Why did you take this job? I needed it. Not the money. Why this job? I met his eyes. Because I have been lied to. Because I know what it is like to be thrown away. His expression changed just for a second, like a crack in a wall that should not be there. Then he turned back to the window. Do not get attached, he said. I do not do gratitude, and I do not do friendship. Good, I replied. I do not do illusions. He did not say anything after that, but he did not dismiss me either. It happened on the 5th night. I was not supposed to be awake. but the wind outside had been howling since midnight. I got up to close the blinds and spotted the light still on in the West Wing gym. An area Ryan rarely allowed anyone into alone. Something tugged at me, quiet and instinctive. I slipped on my sweater and padded down the silent hall. I pushed the gym door open just enough to peek through, and what I saw stopped everything. Ryan Hale was standing. Not completely, not unaided. He was gripping a pair of parallel bars, his arms tense with strain, sweat dripping down his temple. His legs trembling beneath him, every muscle taut, but he was moving, slowly, determinedly, step by painstaking step. He was hiding progress, and I needed to know why. He noticed me. His expression shifted instantly from effort to rage. "What the hell are you doing?" I heard something, I thought. "Get out, Emily, now." I did not move, I could not. Not because I was frozen, but because something in my chest had already changed. "Why are you keeping this a secret?" I asked softly. His hands clenched tighter around the bars, knuckles white, because the minute people see progress, they expect miracles. "That is not how healing works." He laughed bitterly. "No, but it is how disappointment works." I have already watched people walk away once they realized I was not going to magically rise from the chair and be who I was before. I am not doing that again. So instead you pretend there is nothing left, that you have given up. His jaw tightened. "You do not get it." I stepped closer, carefully, like approaching a wounded animal. "Maybe I do." His eyes locked onto mine. Furious, uncertain. "I am not going to tell anyone," I said. "But if you let me help you, really help you, we can work towards something better. You do not have to do this alone." "Why?" he demanded. "Why do you care?" "Because I know what it is like to have your future ripped away and be expected to smile through the pieces." He stared at me, breathing hard, sweat gleaming on his skin. Then he lowered himself slowly back into the chair. Silent, exhausted, finally he muttered, "Fine." My heart jumped. "We keep this between us," he added. "No one knows." I understand. That was it. Just one word. But in that word was a door that had just opened between us. And neither of us would ever be able to close it again. We started sessions the next morning, early, quiet, before Margaret stirred, before the sunlight fully warmed the kitchen tiles. Each step Ryan took was agony, controlled, measured, like fighting gravity with nothing but spite and muscle memory. But he did it. And I was there, not to cheer, not to weep, just to support. One hand steadying the world he was fighting to return to. Then came the morning that changed everything. I was organizing the meds cabinet when I heard a voice. Deep, confident, too smooth, I followed the sound into the west sitting room. A man in his early 40s was lounging on the leather couch, expensive watch glinting in the morning sun, holding a glass of something that was not juice. Ryan across from him offered a tight smile. "Good to see you too, Eric." That was Eric Thorne, Ryan's longtime business partner, the man who had stepped up to manage Hale Nexus Technologies after the accident. Something about him made my skin crawl. Maybe it was the way he looked at Ryan, like he was still measuring his worth. Or maybe it was how his eyes landed on me when I walked in with the tea tray. Slow, assessing, invasive. The conversation turned to business, mergers, investor tensions, government contracts. I tried to stay invisible. Then one word froze me where I stood. Langley. Eric leaned in, lowering his voice. "Laura says her father is ready to push the funds through. We just need the control package transferred to the shell. Langley Capital will absorb it." Ryan did not respond. He stared out the window, knuckles tight against the armrest. "I will look them over," Ryan said. Eric pushed harder. "You have been saying that for weeks. If we wait much longer, the opportunity closes." I slipped out before either of them noticed I was still standing there. Langley, Laura Langley, that name still haunted me. Langley Capital. Eric's push for Ryan's signature. The company, They were trying to take it, strip control while Ryan was still recovering. And if Laura was involved, Megan Langley could not be far behind. My chest tightened. Was this connected to what happened to me? Had I stumbled into something much bigger than a broken engagement? That night, I could not keep it in. As I helped Ryan with his stretching exercises, I broke the silence. "There is something I overheard today about your company." He did not look at me. "Go on." I told him everything. Verbatim, names, phrases, tone. I even mentioned Megan Langley. At that he paused. "You know her?" My ex-fiancé left me for her. He blinked slowly. "Jason Miller." I nodded. "You know him?" "No, but I have heard the name through Eric." He rolled away from the wall and stared at me. "Are you suggesting that my business partner and your ex are connected?" "I am suggesting it is too much of a coincidence." He did not say anything for a long moment. Then finally, "I will review the documents." That was it. I tried not to feel crushed. I had hoped for more, maybe belief, maybe action. But instead, Ryan returned to silence, like everything I said had gone straight into a void. That night, I paced my room. Was I wrong? Was I imagining shadows, or worse? Was I right and no one would believe me? The next morning, he knocked on my door. He never knocked. When I opened it, Ryan sat in his wheelchair, a folder in his lap. "You were right," he said. He said it simply, without drama, without delay. "You were right. Langley Capital is not just investing. The paperwork transfers decision-making rights and ownership to a holding company Eric formed 2 months ago." Hidden under layers, my breath caught. "I want you to help me stop them." He handed me the folder. "Are you sure?" I asked. After everything, Ryan nodded. "If they think I am too weak to fight, then they have forgotten who I was before I broke." The plan took days to finalize. Every night after the staff had gone quiet and the windows had gone dark, Ryan and I sat across from each other at the long oak table in the study, poring over documents and strategy notes. His hands trembled from exhaustion sometimes, but his voice stayed steady. He was building a war room piece by piece, and I was his only ally inside the walls. He had already contacted his attorney. They were gathering records, emails, contracts, bank trails. Ryan had hidden nothing from me, not even his doubts. "I trusted Eric more than anyone," he said one night. "He was there the day I pitched my first app. I let him speak on my behalf when I could not walk." "You were right to trust your gut," I told him. "I was late to do it," he replied, "but I will not be late again." 1 week later, a special board meeting was called. No one suspected anything. Ryan let Eric think the signature was coming. He even thanked him in an email for handling things so well. That same afternoon, Ryan suited up. It was the first time I saw him in a full tailored suit. Midnight blue, crisp. His body was still weak, but something about the way he held himself, proud, upright, made the air in the room shift. He practiced walking to the conference table with a cane, just 10 steps, then 15, then 20. "I want them to see it with their own eyes," he said. The day of the meeting, we arrived 15 minutes early. The building was all glass and chrome, and too much silence. Heads turned as we entered, Ryan walking beside me, jaw set, steps measured but firm. Shock rippled through the halls. In the boardroom, Eric sat at the head of the table. Laura was there too, in a dove gray suit, legs crossed, lips painted like war, and beside her, Jason. He looked smaller than I remembered, still handsome, still smug, but less polished now, like something borrowed that had never been returned quite right. When Ryan stepped into the room, cane in hand, the silence snapped. "You are walking," Eric said. "Not perfectly," Ryan replied, "but enough." He did not sit at the far end. He walked directly to the head of the table, paused and looked Eric dead in the eyes. "This meeting is now under my authority," he said calmly, "and I will begin with this." He placed a folder on the table and flipped it open. The room watched as he laid out every forged trail, Every backdoor clause, every proof of Eric's attempt to hand control of Hale Nexus Technologies to a private shell company owned by Langley Capital. Laura did not flinch. Jason shifted uncomfortably. Eric's face slowly drained of color. "You cannot prove intent," Eric muttered. "I do not have to," Ryan replied. "I only have to prove breach of fiduciary duty, which I just did." The board stirred. The general counsel stood. "Mr. Hale, would you like to request an immediate vote of no confidence?" "I would," Ryan said. Effective immediately, chaos erupted. Laura rose first, her heels clicking like gunshots. "You do not know who you are messing with, Ryan." "Oh, I do," he said softly. "A woman who hides behind her father's name, and a man who sells out everything for a shortcut." She scoffed. "And your nurse, what is she? Your co-founder now?" Ryan turned to look at me. "She is the reason I am standing here at all." Jason looked away. The board voted. It was unanimous. Eric was removed. The contracts were nullified. Control reverted. When it was done and the room cleared out, Ryan and I stayed behind alone. He leaned on his cane, breathing hard, but his eyes shone. "You did it," I whispered. "No," he said. "We did." And then just for a second he smiled. Wide and full and real. And I realized something I had not let myself believe until that moment. He was not the only one who had taken his first steps that day. Weeks passed. The mansion no longer felt like a museum. The windows were open more often. Light poured into the holes. Ryan still had hard days, still limped, still had to brace against pain. But the bitterness that used to trail behind every step had started to lift. So had mine. The wedding I never had, I stopped mourning it. The name I almost took, I let it go. Slowly I began seeing myself as more than just someone who had been discarded. I started reading again, running short laps on the private trail behind the house, laughing without guilt. Ryan made it a point to cook one night a week, even though he burned rice and cursed at the stove like it owed him something. I let him. I sat at the kitchen island, legs curled up, smiling at his frustration. That was our ritual. Small and unspoken, but ours. One night he handed me a dish I could not identify and said, "If this kills you, I want it on record." I tried it. "You will get the company in the will," I deadpanned. He paused. "Actually, no." I looked up. "I transferred it to a trust," he said. "One that includes you." I blinked. "What?" "I am not giving you the company," he said gently. "But I want you to know I built something better with you than I ever did with anyone else. And I want you to be part of what comes next." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small black box. "Before you say anything," he said quickly, "you do not have to answer today or even this year. I know I am still learning how to be a person again. And I know you did not sign up for this." He opened the box. Inside was a ring, simple gold, one tiny sapphire in the middle. "I would like to ask anyway," he said, voice low, "will you consider walking this road with me? Not because I need saving, but because with you I remember who I am." I did not cry. I thought I might, but instead I felt something steady. Something like arrival. The sense of having walked through the darkest part of the forest and found not a castle, but a clearing, a quiet place to finally breathe again. I took the ring and slid it onto my finger. "I am not saying yes," I whispered, smiling, "but I am not saying no either." He laughed. "That sounds exactly like you." We did not rush. There were no grand announcements, no headlines, just more mornings, more progress. He walked half a mile on his own. I passed my certification to open my own private practice. We hired more staff. The house no longer felt like his. It felt like ours. As for Jason, he texted once, 2 lines, asking if I was okay. I never replied. I did not need to, because the truth was I had already gotten everything I was supposed to get from that heartbreak. A lesson, a detour, and a doorway into the life I had not even dared to imagine. And Ryan stopped using the chair altogether by the fall. On his birthday, we walked down a beach at sunset. sand clinging to our feet, wind cold enough to sting. At one point, he looked out over the ocean and said, "Do you think we will ever go back to who we were before at all?" I shook my head. "I hope not." He turned to me. "Because who we became is better." He did not respond. He just reached for my hand and did not let go. "Now I want to ask you something, and I genuinely want to hear your answer in the comments. Have you ever had something taken from you that turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to you? A door that closed and led you somewhere you never expected? Drop your city in the comments and tell me which moment in this story hit you the hardest. Was it when she walked away from that cafe table? Was it when Ryan said, "She is the reason I am standing here at all"? Or was it the ring with the sapphire and the words that came with it? I read every single comment, and I want to know. If this story gave you something today, please hit the like button right now. It helps this story reach someone who might need it. Subscribe to Jennifer's Story for new episodes every week. And the next story, already waiting on your screen right now, is about a woman who discovered the man who left her had been using her name the entire time. What she found when she finally looked will leave you unable to speak. Stay right there. You need to hear it.